Hey guys, Bethany here from Peter and Glink, and today we're talking Christmas gift tags and watercolor. Watercolor is a hot trend right now in design and in the DIY world, the craft world, and I personally love it. Anything girly, of course I'm a fan of, and watercolor to me is very feminine. Doesn't have to be, but I like the watercolor that looks a little more feminine and flowy. So today we're going to be utilizing that by making a Christmas gift tag. I have some watercolor paper here from Stampin' Up. It's a really nice thickness of paper, and watercolor paper is so much fun because it has a lot of tooth to absorb color, and you can normally it dries without buckling too much, and you end up with a really pretty flowy color. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to play around with just straight watercolor and a brush and some water. I have these watercolor tubes. I'm using sap green and vermilion, and I've taken a paint palette, a paint tray, whatever you'd like to call it, and I've just put a little bit of water in here, and then of course just a little bit of the tube of watercolor down in there, and then mix that around so that I could have a nice bit of color to play with. One thing that you can do, one technique to work with, is to take some water on a regular brush and just brush it over your paper. Don't have to. You're going to notice with watercolor that it reacts differently to a dry surface than it does to a wet surface. So we can put some wet surfaces in places and some dry, leave some dry in places. It's completely up to us what we want to do. Now you'll notice I'm not working on a gift tag. I'm going to make a tag out of this paper. And I like the idea of being able to play around with the watercolor over the whole bit of paper that I have here, and then cutting out the part that I would like to use for my gift tag. So now I'm just going to take a brush and I'm going to get some of my color and I'm just going to wash it. And you'll notice this had a bit that wasn't really mixed. If you notice, there was a little blob of color on there that wasn't really mixed, and that's why we ended up with that look there with a lot of it. And I'm just, like I said, brushing it on, and because my paper is wet, that's why it's getting this kind of flowy look. Now, we can do it however we want. Places that are a little more dry, you notice that the paint reacts differently. And yes, my paper is buckling while it's wet, but when it dries fairly flat, and if it doesn't, you just put some heavy books on it for a while and it'll flatten out. So I'm not going to do the whole thing because, like I said, I want a different look all over the paper so that I can choose what I want to use for my gift tag. Now I'm going to go in the green a little bit. Try not to get a blob like I had in the red, and I'm just going to wash it in places and see what happens there. Now you notice we get some brown in areas where we're mixing, and we can just not use that, or maybe we like that and we want to use it for something. One thing that I love to do as well is to just splatter some watercolor, and we'll do that in just a bit, and I'll show you what I mean with the splattering of the paint. But just look at how gorgeous that is, just the flowiness of it all over the page. We can do the strokes where we can want to, see the strokes a little bit more. We can just let it flow and see what happens. You can leave big blobs of color and that'll dry differently. We can leave some white because sometimes it's nice to have some breathing room. Not sure if that's an art term, but we're going to use it today. So now that I have that kind of covered, I do want to leave some white in spaces. I'm going to get a little bit of the paint on my brush, and I'm just going to flick the brush. Now I have to be careful because I don't want to get it all over my board that I'm using in my background, because I don't want paint all over it for when I'm trying to show you other parts of the tutorial. But I do have some baby wipes on standby, so if I get some on my poster board, I can wipe it with a baby wipe and it pretty much comes off. This green is kind of bright. I'm sure I have another green that's in my watercolor set that I could use that wouldn't be quite as bright. But when you look at the tube color versus when you mix it with some water and actually put it on some paper, sometimes the colors look a little bit different. So you might want to be careful with that. Now, since my paper is wet now, you'll see that when I'm getting the drops, they're kind of spreading out. If you don't like that, you can wait till this dries, and then you can splatter some paint and it'll stay more like this. See, this area is a little more dry, that's why it stayed like that, or right here. I'm going to set this to the side and let it dry, and I'll probably come back and do some splattering when it is dry, and I'm going to show you a bit of a different technique. So let me put this to the side and let it dry for a bit. I have another piece of the watercolor paper that's fresh. And I'm not going to wet this one. I'm going to leave it dry. And I'm going to use this stripe mask from Stampin' Up. And I'm just going to paint some color on with the flat brush that I was using to wet my paper with earlier, sorry. And I'm just going to just brush it on this way. You'll notice that there's some places where it looks thin and some where it looks thick. That just depends on the consistency of how much of the watercolor pigment is mixed in. If it's not mixed in as well, or if it's mixed in a little bit more, you'll get a thinner color. I'll have a hair right there. Probably from a paintbrush, maybe. I'll have to get that out in a bit. If you're impatient to wait for your watercolor to dry, since I'm doing another one, I could just set that up, sit that other one to the side. But if you're impatient for it to dry, you can always use a hairdryer, which is what I normally do if I'm working on one thing at a time, because I really don't like to watch paint dry, as I'm sure most people do not. So that's just a little bit of the green and stripes, and I like how it's not perfect, you know, because that's kind of the idea of watercolor, that you get these bleeding spaces where it's not all the same. And we have lots of different options. This one, since I have it here and it already has some paint on it, let's just splatter some stuff on it. Let's just have some fun with that. And like I said, I do want to be careful because of my background there. And because this is dry, this is what I was talking about earlier, because this is dry, we're not getting as much of the, I guess it's kind of blending into the paper. It's more sitting on top of it, and it makes these cool little droplets. And you can have them more concentrated in areas and then less concentrated in areas, and I like that because I do like white space and space for the design to bleed, or not bleed, breathe, sorry. I can't think of my words today. I like for places for the design to be able to breathe a little bit with the white space. See, I can't talk. I think I get on camera and I get tongue-tied. Clean up my brush a little and get some of the green. And let's do the same with it. And we'll have different places where there's more of the green, and then different places where there's less of the green. And I keep wiping off my poster board because, like I said, I need this white background for when I'm working later on. And this one is going crazy, y'all. It's all over the place. But that's fine, right? I could even go in and brush some color if I wanted to. And that's the cool thing about it. It's just every time is going to end up differently, because your paint's going to splatter differently one time, or you may have less color or more color, or your paper might be wet, your paper might not be wet. It's just really fun to see what happens, because it's going to be different every time. And that's the fun part of creativity. You know, I might do this time and see, oh yeah, I want to use that for this, and then the next time I get a different look and it inspires me to do something completely different. Once this dried, I could come back and do some of the stripes on top of it with a different color. Of course, I'm going to do some stamping later on. I think I'm going to get some more of the red in just a second to do here. So there's just so much you can do with this, and that's what's so fun to me about watercolors. If I used a bigger brush, I could get more bigger drops, or if you just get it more wet like that. See that I had it kind of dripping wet, so I got a lot more of the pigment. I kind of like the way this looks now, so I'm going to put this to the side. I'm going to let all my pieces dry, and then I'm going to come back and talk to you while we put together our pieces for our gift tags. Alright, I'm back with my dried watercolor paper. You can notice that everything dried up really nicely. I actually took the first one that I did and splattered some more paint on it like I did with this one. And then I'll let all of that dry. You can see it is buckled a little bit, but as I said, if I put it under a heavy book for a while, it will flatten out mostly. I have a paper cutter. I know that for this really cool gift tag punch I have from Stampin' Up, that the paper needs to be 2 inches. That will be the width of my gift tag. So I'm going to trim this paper to 2 inches. I measured, I used my ruler to make sure. And I'm just going to slide this to cut it. And now I have a strip that's 2 inches. And I'm going to take my punch And I'm going to slide this right in here. It's going to be a snug fit. I'm going to get it all the way to the end. Let me move this so y'all can see. And then I'm just going to simply punch. And now I have a really cool gift tag. Look at that. And I might want to trim it. Like, to me, that looks more like a bookmark. So I can just slide this out and I can trim it however long I would like it to be. I think probably more like that. And trim that off, and then now I have a gift tag. I can use scissors to trim that little bit off the end. And now I can do whatever I would like with this. I can do the same with one of my other papers. I might actually even want to do a shape from one of these to go on top of here. I might want to stamp on this and then cut out that shape and put it on here. But there's tons of possibilities for what I can do now since I've cut my water paper with this really cool little tag and my paper trimmer. So I'll be back in a minute to show you how to assemble some gift tags. Alright, now we have 4 different gift tags that I've used. The paper cutter and the gift tag punch from Stampin' Up! To create these little gift tags, and now we're gonna have fun and we're gonna decorate them in all different ways. I have this Oh What Fun acrylic stamp set from Stampin' Up! And I love acrylic stamps. They're so much fun because they come like this if you're not familiar with them, and you just peel them off and you put them on a clear acrylic block, and then you can see where you're placing your stamps at. So let's move these to the side so we can work on one at a time. I have a Stays On ink pad. I also have a classic stamping pad from Stampin' Up! That is real red, and I have a classic stamping pad from Stampin' Up! That is garden green. Very good Christmassy colors here. So I'm going to put this cardstock here so I can stamp all over. I think we're going to start with this one. And I'm going to choose to use, the cool thing, see, about the acrylic stamps is you can put them on here and decide which one's going to fit and look really cute. I think Wishing You a Sweet Season would be cool right here. And then I can put some washi tape underneath there and maybe even on top. So let's peel this off just like so. And put it on our acrylic block. And I think I'm going to use first the red from Stampin' Up! And I might even do some black over that because I think I can do a shadow since I have the acrylic stamp set. Oh wow, got a lot on there, didn't I? Whoops. Okay, I think I'm going to use something to wipe this off because I don't want to make a mess. Let's wipe that off right there. And I am making a little bit of mess. It'll be better than it was though, right? Now, here we go. So I'm going to place that right where I have some room to do some other things with it. And I might just do the red. Who knows? We might decide we like it by itself. Wishing You a Sweet Season. Isn't that cute? I love that. I think I like this green. Let's do some of this green. This is also from Stampin' Up! And I will link to all the products on my blog post. I just like washi when it's torn. It's just personal preference. So I'm going to tear some of it off. Just enough of a piece to go down here. Put it like that. And then trim the edge of it. You could fold it over. Just going to trim it. I think maybe even do another bit on top of that. I probably should close this up. Close this up for and make a bigger mess. Okay. I think maybe even the yellow or gold, not sure what it is, would be a fun accent. And of course I don't know where the end of this is. There it is. Found it. Maybe just a bit of that to go over that. Maybe like that. I don't like that there. Let's put it on the top. That's crafting for you, people. Do it this way. You never know what you're gonna like. If you like it, keep it. If you don't, tear it off. And there we go, we got that. And if we like it, we can leave it like that. I also have some ribbon from Stampin' Up! that we can use to go through the end there. We can use the green, we can use the red. I'm kind of feeling the red. Once again, I haven't opened this. Probably should, right? When you're making a video, you should have everything ready. So let's get just a bit. Maybe I should do the red and the green. How about that? This is what happens when you create, right? You just add to it until you like it. And I love that I have so many different watercolor backgrounds and I can do tons of different styles. Just do the same amount of each one so we have an even. I think that'll probably be enough to fold. Trim that off. Put that to the side over here. Let's find the middle. Make a loop. Try to thread that through my card. You can do it either way. You can go through the front or through the back. I'm going to go through the front. It's kind of just whichever one you're feeling like at the moment. And then you just pull that through without missing your hole, sorry. And then you just want to tighten each one. You can, of course, make sure that you don't have any that are turned weird when you're pulling through there. Don't pull too hard or you can tear the gift card. And then I can leave this like this, or I can trim it to a certain length if I wanted it shorter than that. Probably needs to be, what you think about right there. So I'm going to trim this off. And if you wanted to, you could use some no fray on the end to make sure that it doesn't fray. That's kind of fun, right? So let's play around with another one. Let's do this paper that I have left over that I did not cut. I did cut it, of course, for this one, but I had some left over that I could play around with. So let's do it. And let's do a fun sentiment like, oh, I think I'm going to put it on top of my striped one. So what would I like? Happy Christmas. Oh, what fun. From Santa. Jolly. I think I like Happy Christmas. So let's take it off. Once again, let's put it on our block. I love how they stick. See? It's on there really well. And I'm going to use my black Stays-on ink pad. And just tap, tap, tap to get enough on there. I have not used these stamps before, so they haven't really been conditioned. But if I get enough on there, I think we can get a good stamp impression. Alright, let's move that over. Just cross our fingers, hold our breath. Let's put it right here, so we'll, look at right about there. Let's make sure we press really well so that we get a good stamped image. Awesome. Doesn't that look great? Doesn't that look great? Yeah. And like I said, this is how I clean my stamps. I'll go back and clean them later with a baby wipe, I promise you, okay? Don't be worried that I'm going to ruin them. I just don't want to do that. I don't think you'd want to watch me sit here and clean stamps, right? The tap, tap, tap is enough. So, put that back over here. And then I'm just going to cut this out with my scissors. I could cut it square, but I think I'm just going to cut it freehand to get a neat little shape. Make sure y'all can see. I love this because it looks hand lettered, and it might even be, I'm not really sure. I don't know how they created this, but it's beautiful. I love flourishes, and y'all know I said earlier I love words, I do. And this is actually a beautiful set of words. Happy Christmas. Okay, let's put that to the side. Oh, I forgot to put the lid back on my stamp pad. Don't want that to dry up. Okay, so now we have this, and we're going to put it on here. I have a glue stick from Stampin' Up. It's a fun shape. I'm going to just put that out. Just rub it on the back. You can tell this is going to stick really well. You can tell by the consistency of the glue when it comes out. I normally just use an Elmer's glue stick, but I think this is going to be my new favorite. And then let's put this right about here. Smush it down on really well. You could use a double-sided adhesive roller. I'm more of a fan of the glue stick for things that are, you know, odd shapes, not square, because you can't always get the edges with a glue stick. I'm gonna use a gold Sharpie and put some like little things around this, like here. Maybe one right here. That is really fun, love that. And then let's do our ribbon. I don't think we need quite as much as last time since we cut so much off. Maybe about like that. You could use all different types of ribbon, even if you had some thin lace or even some baker's twine. It's always fun to have different textures, and different types of ribbons like that are going to give you different textures, which is really fun. If I can get that through. I didn't do the corner, did I? Gotta work on that. Here we go. It's easier if you put the corner through instead of just trying to thread it through without. I'm going to try to keep this one a little more straight than I did the other by just making sure it's straight when I hold it. And then let's go like that. Okay. That's fine. We can cut these to the same size. We can leave them different sizes. I think I'm going to cut them to the same size. Let's snip that off. And snip that off. And once again, remember you can use no fray on the ends to make sure that you don't get any fray. Even clear nail polish would work. So, hopefully you have enjoyed this tutorial on how to make gift tags, and I know that if you were to do this, yours would probably look even better than mine. But it's really fun to do and a really quick craft to put a little handcrafted goodness on a gift that you want to give somebody. Even if you wanted to do a gift card, just putting it in a little container and then putting a handmade gift tag on it just makes it a little more personal than just a plain gift card. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you get to try it out. I'd love to see if you make any gift tags using this tutorial, and if you do, if you'll tag me on Facebook or Instagram or even Twitter so that I can see what you create, because I would love to. And I hope you have a great day. Happy crafting.